This week, I designed and built the perfect place to study at home.
Plus, we get to meet the Steve Ramsey, and we'll look at a few of our favorite maker videos of the week. But first, it's time for a maker break. Hey guys, welcome back to Maker Break, where we share our favorite maker videos of the week and then challenge ourselves to build a project of our own. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Rob, and this week we designed and built something completely new. My wife and I decided that, considering the uncertainty of the current pandemic, we'd enroll our kids into an online school for the coming year. And if they're going to be learning at home, I figured they needed a place to work with as few distractions as possible.
Yep, so we decided to design and build a pair of study pods for his kids.
Yep, here's how it went. While I let you take a look at my model, I need to explain what this is and why I'm building it. With all the uncertainty and the way kids are going back to school this fall, after a lot of research, my wife and I decided to enroll our kids in an online school for at least this coming year. That means they'll be teleconferencing with their teachers and even fellow students. It's going to take a lot of extra attention from my wife and me, and we're ready for that. Anyways, we needed to decide where in the house the kids would do their schoolwork while I was working in our studio every day. I wanted them to have a specific place for school that wasn't used for anything else, a place with no distractions. So I designed this. This is a study pod. It's a small booth that stays in their room and keeps all their school stuff in one place. Here's how I built it. Now I wanted the base of this thing to be elevated, even if it was only by 4¼ inches. I felt that needing to step up into the pod would help with the mental transition to school each day. To do this, I designed a simple frame with studs 16 on center. Then I covered it with a cheap piece of plywood. I guess I should point out that I chose all the cheapest wood I could from Lowe's. I know there will be parents out there that can't spend a lot, so I wanted to keep this as affordable as possible. But because of that, you're going to see more than a few blemishes on this project. I'm not worried about that because I expect my son to trash this himself soon enough. After the base was done, I started on the walls. Now this pod will be 32 inches wide by 60 inches long. The walls are all 48 inches tall, mainly because that allowed me to cover all 4 sides with just 2 sheets of plywood. I used my straight edge and my circular saw to cut each wall to size. Now the walls will all have French cleats on them, just like the ones I used for my Lego display a couple episodes ago. This is going to make it easy to float a desktop in there, and we plan to build several book and supply holders that will hang on cleats, and that way they can move anywhere the kids need them. On all 4 corners, I'm using 2x2s to help me securely screw the panels together. I decided to screw those in place first to make sure it would work. I also wanted to test fit some cleats, so I set my table saw to 45 degrees and ripped a ton of 1x4s right down the middle. Next, I marked out the locations on my wall and laid out the cleats and supports, and they look good. Next, I cut out the side wall that will have the walkthrough area. Now, I cut out an additional square that will end up being on a hinge so I can lay that part of the wall down, letting me sit and work with my kids when they need my help. I went ahead and finished cutting all the pieces I needed, and then it was time to paint. Now, fortunately, my wife agreed to give me a hand because that's a lot of painting. All of the cleats and trim are white, while the walls are a blue my wife just used to paint my son's bedroom. I do realize that this looks an awful lot like heart blue, but it was just a coincidence. A happy one, but still. Boy, that's a lot of blue. Once it was dry, it was time to start screwing things into place. I was going to simply paint over the screws, but my wife suggested I use silver ones and leave them exposed. I thought it would look cool as long as I spaced them all consistently, so I measured each spot out, pre-drilled and countersunk each hole, and then screwed them into place. Now the plan was to build each wall, then bring them upstairs to assemble in Cameron's room, but that meant I was doing a lot of measuring and trusting my measurements were right. Don't do that if you don't have to. On the outside of the pod on one end, my wife suggested we put a layer of corkboard over it so they could show off their work. So I found this roll of 1/4-inch cork on Amazon for about $40, and it should cover both pods. Now I tried to hold it in place with spray adhesive, which wasn't doing a great job, so I ended up using wood glue, because you know, tight bond is tight. And that worked great. I cut the cork to size, and that side was done. I still had to flip it over and screw in the cleats. Once again, trusting my measurements, fingers crossed. Once I had all the walls done, I set them aside and set out to cut some of the trim. I painted a bunch of 1x4s and needed to cut a 45-degree miter into each one so they could nicely wrap around the corners. Then it was time to head to Cameron's room. Of course, you may find a different place in your home for your kids, but this pod should still help maintain focus. You know, I hope. I first brought in the base and then slowly brought each wall upstairs. I screwed the walls into the base and then into the 2x2s. This made for surprisingly solid walls. The kids were very excited to see it come together and kept trying to help. Cameron sat inside to test it out. Oh, and I forgot to mention, I also glued in a whiteboard material above the top cleat on that left side, giving them space to draw, and I thought that might be pretty cool. Next, I brought up the corner trim and screwed them in with these pocket hole screws because they have a built-in washer that just kind of looks nice. Again, we're trying to make the screws part of the aesthetics. Once I had it all assembled, I was able to measure everything before cutting the desktop to make sure all my measurements were true, and they were. So I cut the desktop in a second level to hold the monitor and painted them white as well. Now again, I'm putting cleats on these guys as well, so they'll actually slide into the cleats on the wall. Not only will this be an easy way to suspend the table, but it will also become a structural part of the pod and help hold the walls together. I thought that was pretty cool. Finally, I cut a few 1x4s to screw into the top, giving me a place to dangerously set my coffee while I help with, new math. And here we go. The only thing left to do is install a bit of vinyl flooring my wife ordered, but that shouldn't be too hard. Otherwise, it's done and the kids love it. Now, will it help them study? I have no idea, but I sure hope so. I'll let you know how the school year rolls out. Whatever you do with your kids this year, good luck. And remember to be as involved in their education as you possibly can.
So yeah, it turned out kind of awesome, right? So my kids completely love it. They've been drawing on the wall constantly. I obviously don't know how well this is going to work out until school starts, but we'll see. So we'll hang in there. Of course, this also means I have to build another one for my daughter. This project took a long time.
But it's awesome!
I think so too, and if you guys want to build one, I'll put up my plans for it, and you can go at it, and hopefully it works for you too, but just know, you better start now if school starts in like 3 weeks.
It's time to meet a maker, and this week we have a very special guest. We're talking about Steve Ramsey, the creator of Woodworking for Mere Mortals and several woodworking courses, including The Weekend Woodworker and The Weekend Workshop. For the last 12 years, he's been publishing educational woodworking videos on YouTube, sharing the joy of woodworking with us mere mortals.
I'm really enjoying this channel. You're doing a great job here. Okay, let's get down to business. You've got 5 questions for me. We'll start with number 1. How about that? Tell us about yourself and your channels. Well, my name is Steve Ramsey. I'm the host of Woodworking for Mere Mortals, a channel that I started in 2008. So this channel's been around a while on YouTube. Woodworking for Mere Mortals is focused on the beginning woodworker and teaching you the skills that you need to make really cool projects without a lot of space and without investing a lot of money on expensive tools. In 2017, I created my first online woodworking course called The Weekend Woodworker, which expands on that and takes people from learning woodworking from the ground up. No experience necessary. You'll be building your first project in your first weekend. Since then, I've created 2 more online courses, including my most recent one, The Weekend Workshop, which teaches you how to set up a complete workshop, again, in a small space, in a garage, with limited budget. My biggest goal with The Weekend Workshop was to tackle the problem of space. How do you set up an efficient woodworking shop in a garage or other space that you might be sharing with cars? My YouTube channel has evolved over the years from a strictly project-based woodworking channel to one now where I'm vlogging, and instead of telling the story of building projects, I'm trying to tell the story of woodworking. Because after 40 years of building things, I can tell you woodworking is about a lot more than just building things. Because really, nobody needs to see me build, another coffee table. What tool is the most unsung hero in my shop? I don't know if there's an unsung hero other than maybe my biscuit joiner. That's a joke. It's probably not a tool, but probably the most unsung hero in general would be my wood glue. I mean, I use yellow Titebond 2 wood glue on probably 99% of all of my projects. It's so important and such a strong, reliable product that I use it and I don't even think about it. Probably my favorite project would be my BMW, the Basic Mobile Workbench, and that's just because so many people have made that project, and it's really satisfying for me to see that that is the entry point into woodworking for a lot of people. Name another maker that you love to follow. Well, I love to follow lots of makers, but one that I'm really into is Wicked Makers. I like channels that have an actual focus, and a big portion of their channel is making spooky and Halloween related projects, which is one of my favorites. The first video of theirs I ran across was how they make fake flames in a window, and I remember seeing that effect in the Pirates of the Caribbean ride and thinking, gosh, that is so cool how they do it, because it looks just like real flames. And then they showed how to make that on their channel, and there's tons of really cool projects like that. So check out Wicked Makers, and then watch my Halloween videos. Nobody watches my Halloween videos. What am I working on right now? I'm not working on anything. That's why I can shoot this video for you. No, I'm in between projects. That's like what when people say when they're unemployed, you know, I'm in between jobs. I've got a lot of projects in the work. One of them is I'm trying to catify my house. If you don't know what that is, it's like making, do you remember like Habit Trail, like the hamsters would run through tubes and stuff? Well, I want to do that with my cats. A little bit more elaborate than those, I guess. Slowly, I am becoming that crazy cat lady. Okay, well, I guess that's it. Hey, 5 questions. That was easy. Hey, thanks a lot, guys. This was a lot of fun.
Thanks so much, Steve. You guys can subscribe to Steve's channel at Steve Ramsey on YouTube, or sign up for one of his many amazing courses at theweekendwoodworker.com.
If you have a favorite maker on YouTube or Instagram and you think that we should meet them, let us know.
Yep, and we'll leave the contact information in the description below.
Before we go, we wanted to point out a few of our favorite maker videos this week. This is Katie from Addicted to DIY, who shared a backyard game I have never seen before, but makes it look fun to play and really easy to build.
Now, a couple years ago, Izzy Swan built this amazing hand crank chainsaw mill. While it's continued to work great, he's had problems moving bigger logs into place on his own, so this week he set out to design and build a custom device for lifting heavy logs. His solution involves a Chinese windlass, which is this amazing bit of engineering that allows you to lift or lower large loads with little effort while leaving it in constant balance so it doesn't fall on its own. Hard to explain, but Izzy does a great job of it.
And this last one is from Donnie of Designs by Donnie, who gave his window nook, which I didn't think looked that bad already, a makeover I never would have imagined on my own. He built a completely new bench, put in some shiplap, and gave it all a new coat of paint. Look at that, it's really beautiful.
All right, maker friends, that's all we've got. If you saw a maker video that should have been mentioned this week, do us a favor and link to it in the comments below.
If you link it, we'll watch it.
Yep, and special thanks to Heart for sponsoring this episode and reminding us that we can build anything we can imagine if we do it with heart.
Be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss a thing.
All right, break's over.
Let's make something.